Hey, Jonathan, how are you?
I'm rocking. I am
Okay.
literally rocking.
Okay. I kind of
I,
think like we didn't coordinate our podcast recording outfits, but we're both wearing black, so I think I must say we look really good. Really, really
yeah,
good.
I'm
Okay.
surprised this hasn't happened before.
I know.
We're in
So
the same
happy,
outfit.
almost happy New Year. What are we talking about this week?
I think it's almost going to be a recap, like when you come up to the season finale on your favorite streaming show, and then they go, they recap the season and
Yep.
help people climb in or jump into or bust into 2025.
Okay. Okay. Well, I look forward to that. I can't wait to bust in with you, and we'll be right back. And the keys
Sorry.
are put away.
Shit.
And
I better
welcome
get these
back.
noisy keys out of here before
Welcome
we're
back. I
rolling.
wish I had my
And
keys.
we're rolling.
And we're rolling. So, welcome back to Life as We Know It. You
Oh,
can find
man.
we're the podcast that shines a light on individuals and groups, small local businesses, and organizations making a difference in our community. You can find us on Instagram at Life as You Know It Podcast 123, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube at Pfeiffer Pod. Life as We Know It, Jonathan and Don. So if that makes sure, I'll make sure, Jonathan, I put that up on the screen so people know it because I don't want to spell Pfeiffer again because I don't remember how to spell it.
I think I'll just bring a different celebrity each week to spell
Okay.
for Pfeiffer.
Okay, so how's it going?
Well, life is funny with its ups and downs. It's going to be a happy episode, but just to, well, let me just jump right into it. We had some listeners back to our old podcast, and then some have come over to this one. And I've blasted some stuff out on social media, talked to family and friends. In 2022, I was diagnosed with cancer, multiple myeloma, and I had 2 years of lovely remission, but now it is back. Excuse me, here in 2024. The good news is I've got, well, not just the love and support, but I have an amazing team of doctors. Shout out to Kaiser and City of Hope. And because I do my blood work every month, they caught it this time around early. And it's because it's a bone marrow and blood cancer, they know that it likes to just sneak back in. And it can really get moving. Like, it's got some serious horsepower once it decides to come back. So we got it early. So what I think I'm looking at is adding back some of the chemo drugs that I had before. So it won't be as drastic, won't be as severe. I might have, some time where it's kind of like back to the pandemic of quarantine. Not so much quarantine, but I'll be going back to masking and shit like that for a little while. Excuse me. They're going to hit me hard in the beginning and then keep monitoring it, of course. And so, we're gonna. Sorry, Don, you're gonna have to edit all this shit out. But, but it's
No.
looking like, if I remember, I haven't quite spoke. I spoke to a nurse practitioner, so she said, this much I can tell you, but the final word comes from the oncologist. But so I'm just going off by what she said. If they bring back one of these drugs that I remember, there was very little side effect. I might have to go in once a week in the beginning, get under the feed bag for an hour or something, in conjunction with maybe one or two drugs I take at home. And they just tamp it right back down, and then they keep monitoring, and then we keep going. Then once I get back in remission, they can pull the drugs back, but probably I'll always have a maintenance chemo, and I have a maintenance one right now. Yeah, so the maintenance chemo is 21 days on, 7 days off. They check the blood, and then we just keep it going, and that's what I've been doing for 2 years. and but feeling 100%, like got the weight back, strength back, all that stuff. So I didn't want to spend a lot of time on that today, but I did want to update everybody and also let you know that in addition to personal training, I'm getting into health and wellness and life coaching, and that's one of the positives that's come out of all this cancer. Is while I've been putting up videos, I've been getting a lot of private messages and support, and people like sharing, getting deep with it, and not just cancer survivors, but families of cancer victims and people with other stuff going on. Excuse me. And I probably come by that honestly because my dad was a psychiatrist and my mother started out in social work, and then later with her politics, it was always about lifting up the underdog, helping the little guy or gal or pronoun. Let's keep it real. So yes, that's one of there's a lot of good that's actually come out of this. But again, let's get into the episode. So that's just a quick update that went a little longer than planned. But don't worry about me. I am fucking strong as two oxes. I feel good. The love is there. The support's there.
Thank you for sharing that with you. I'm not going to say brave because you've always been that person. And I think when you first came out of this, you did mention to us that this would always be in some way part of your life,
Yes.
either the treatment or if something did come back. So we understand that. And I do agree. The outpouring of support, love, go get it. You know, we can tackle this, and community around you was also still very inspiring. So we're keeping all our positive thoughts for you always. And I'm so glad that we're still doing this, because no matter what happens, we can still do this. And we just have to be a little more aware of when any of us gets a cold, that we don't want to bring any colds over to your house.
That's
so
right. Give me a heads up.
yeah, and again, thank you very much for sharing that. We're going to be with you on the whole journey too, and as much as you want to share on this podcast, we would love to hear updates and see how you're doing, even if you're not having a good day too. So we're all here
there might
for
be
you.
some times when the energy's just, and I'll let you know, and we probably won't do an episode that day, but we got this. What the other beautiful part is, when I went through it the first time, with each day I had no idea what was going to happen, and Sony didn't know what was going to happen. Now that we've done it, we have a good idea, and there's already been some advancements in treatment just in that 2-year period. So I'm ready for it. We're ready for it.
Yep, and a shout out again to all the Kaiser people too, because I know you just to love all those people. They do such great work.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take a little break. We'll be right back. We're going to jump into something a little different.
Yeah.
Do you like good books? There's a rock drummer living in Los Angeles named Lou Crasher. The cat doubles as an unlicensed private investigator. Can you imagine rocking 1 minute and fighting crime the next? I'd give you more time to imagine, but I gotta move this commercial along. Oh, the books? Well, the first one was The Big Crescendo, followed by Don't Shoot the Drummer, which I think is good advice, and 2023's Drums, Guns, and Money, a bona fide Seamus Award nominee. The Lou Crasher mysteries are written by Jonathan J. Brown. Do yourself a favor and read the first 3, so you're ready for Crasher's next adventure, entitled Blood on the Snare Drum.
And we're back.
Yes, we are. Glad to be back.
Yeah. So, how do you want to bring us back in, Jonathan? We are in the holiday season right now. We're going to be heading towards a new year. A lot of different things happening, and I know you wanted to bring up something.
I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
It was a podcast, I think, 2 episodes ago or something, and you had mentioned that you were finding yourself kind of getting short-tempered, snapping at the dogs.
Yes.
And it was the last one. And I said, well, I know I am pissed off, and I went on my rant. Have you figured out why you've been snapping?
Well, I don't know if I figured out why I've been snapping, but I do know that I have I think, rounded a corner. That was from our pivot episode.
Pivot episode, yes.
And that's where we said we were not going to call it resolutions for the new year, which I agree. But it was more of, I think I'm getting a little more reflective.
Okay.
And what I mean by reflective is like I'm getting older. And I'm making conscious decisions right now, and maybe we can dive into this a little bit more, but conscious decisions, and they don't just include getting on the rowing machine or putting down the second donut.
Right.
It's more reflective on like what's going to be important to me in the long run, and getting mad at my partner or my dogs doesn't get me anywhere.
Right.
And even Anthony brought it back to me one time. It's like, what does it really accomplish for you to be mean to someone? What are you getting out of that?
Right.
And
1000%.
You get nothing. I got nothing other than feeling bad about doing it. So
right.
It's a conscious choice. So I kind of think, I don't know what made it do it. I think I was just tired, angry, whatever, for whatever reason. And I think it's just being cranky and old. So, I mean, I'm not going to be cranky old man.
Right.
And that's the pivot I'm making on that one, too.
Okay, cool. So I do have a list of things to help people get from 24 to 25. Kind of, you know, how some people do New Year's resolutions and some people don't. Or maybe you set goals, but I think a lot of us, good, bad, or in the middle, with their mood and happiness. I think at the end of a year, we always think, okay, next year I'm going to do this. It's going to be awesome. Or I hope it's not as shitty as that year, type of thing. So are you doing resolutions or no?
I am not, because we spoke about pivoting rather than doing resolutions, and I just wanted to add a couple little nuggets to this discussion. So did you know, for one thing, I think that resolutions are a marketing ploy for everyone in the industries to get you to buy something or consume something.
Oh, sure.
Whether it be a gym membership, a Slim Fast milkshake, a new pair of jeans, whatever it is. I completely believe that too. But did you know that resolutions actually came from somewhere historically? And they are actually set by the ancient Babylonians 4,000 years ago, believe it or not. They were the first civilization. They were, well, it sounds like we're really smart, right? But the fact is that they actually started this to hold recorded celebrations in honor of the year. So what they did was actually say, we're going to celebrate the year, rather than say what people do with resolutions to make you feel bad about what you did last year, like I ate too much, I smoked too much, I drank too much. They actually celebrate the year. So I think that'd be a good way to turn it around a little bit. So it did come from somewhere, it just got twisted, I think, a little bit.
But, I mean, we have New Year's Eve parties, but so they're saying, I guess, like celebrate the fact that you made it another year. Because those are probably pretty rough times back then. Right.
We went around the world once.
Yeah.
You know, we went around the moon once or whatever, and we came back. So we should be happy that we did that. We should be looking forward to a new year. So I'm going to spin it positive. I'm not going to go, I shouldn't have had that fourth glass of wine, even though I did.
Well, and I think we talked about this at your house, somewhere. Anyone that counts your drinks should be uninvited for the next one.
Oh, believe me. Yeah, no, nobody counts the drinks.
Don't.
It's about celebrating, and if you're counting, you're celebrating. So we're never gonna count glasses.
Exactly. Count on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know you were gonna take us down a path of something, though, right?
Well, yeah. I've got some 13 items to help people. Would you like to hear them?
Sure, because I've got some lists for you, too, right after that. Because it's all about...
So the official name of these 13 is 13 Steps to Love and Happiness. That's the official name. But the unofficial name is... The unofficial name is 13 Hacks to Freedom from Fuckery.
FFF. You always throw me these curveballs when you don't tell me what we're talking about. So yeah, we're gonna call this the chapter of this will be called FFF.
Freedom from Fuckery, right?
Yes.
Okay, so these are suggestions that I came up with that people might want to try. Number one is journal. Do you ever journal? Do you have a daily journal? Do you ever do it?
I have talked about it. I have seen. I
Okay.
can see the value in it. I know I can see the value in it. I think it's something when it comes to pivoting and deciding that you want to do that. And we'll talk about. So yes, I have thought about it. I have not done it. Have
Right.
you?
Yes, I kind of got into that in about the last 18 months, and I go through times where I stick with it every day for weeks, and then sometimes it's a couple of days a week, then get away from it. But I'd say the benefits, because I think a lot of people are going to roll their eye because, oh, that's another thing I'm supposed to hold myself accountable to, is one of the best memoirs in my top three favorite memoirs is Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights. It's a great memoir, and he's got a ton of journal entries in it because he's always journaled, and he's got them going back to before he became famous. And so there's a ton of that in there. And it's not just cool that, oh, look what I wrote on this day. He would use it to not only get his thoughts out, but to also set goals. He would put those down. He would write, like, just everything that, it wasn't just one specific thing in the journal. But he's a pretty reflective guy. Like, he definitely looks inward. And one of the best ways to know yourself is journaling. Because if you think, like, a therapist sits down with you and they help you go back to, for example, to say, find that thing that you're stuck on that's screwing up your current life, so to speak, right? And they help you unlock that story that you might have buried. With journaling, we go through day to day and just think, oh, I need to take care of this, I need to get that. But we don't really take time to sit and think. That's why so many people like to walk, because you get your thoughts out when you walk. And a lot of people are getting into meditation. Well, journaling is great because you can write down those thoughts, and then when you come back, like I've had this happen, something I wrote on Monday, I sit down on Thursday and forgot that I wrote that thing on Monday, and it brings you back to yourself, like, yeah, I did say I was going to do that. Sometimes it's a mini goal, or sometimes just being honest about, well, you got to be honest about everything, but it's almost your own therapy, because we just don't, I don't think we spend enough time just thinking before we make a move, because with our phones and technology, it goes so fast.
I was just going to say that one of the reasons I think journaling is, you said a couple things there, but one of the things I know that all you have to do now is look at your phone to look at memories and things where you were at a certain time at a certain day, or this memory happened on this day, and all that's a photo and might bring back some thoughts, some memories, but it doesn't bring back what you're talking about. Was when you're journaling, you're actually writing down a thought, which is not just remembering, oh, I went to that beach that day, or I walked the dogs that day.
Yeah.
So I think and you said another thing that I want to talk about, which is the accountability, and that has something to do with pivoting. So accountability to, you said, like, oh, that's another thing that I have to be accountable for. Well, it is, because that's what we do. There are things we should be accountable to, and I can't think. That sounds like a very good habit to start. I guess I don't know if I want to call it. Is it a habit or is it a routine?
Well,
What
if
is
you
it?
have a set time, if you say I'm going to journal every day or once a week, once you start sticking to it, then it's a habit. But it's helpful.
You said something else smart there too, because it's a matter of setting clear expectation. If you're going to say, I'm going to journal every day, you're probably not going to journal every day. You're going to journal when you are mindful of it. And I hate to use that mindful word too, but I think it's something where if you did it 2 times a week, that's great.
Right.
You know, because it's starting out with that whole resolution thing fiasco. Right. I'm going to journal every day. I'm going to get on the rowing machine every day. We're not going to do it. It's not, life happens. So I think there's something to it, but I guess it also could be meditative in a way, because you get into a place.
It slows you down. It quiets, because again, we talked about this before. If you're looking at tablets or your phone before bed, you turn off the light, you turn off the phone, but the brain wheels keep going. When you sit down to write, and everyone talks about self-care. Well, this is self-care. When you're like physically pen to paper, you're not thinking about your phone, you're not thinking about any of that stuff. And then sometimes you sit there like, okay, what the fuck am I supposed to write? Well, I'll do that. Okay, how do I start this freaking entry? And I'll do that, and then you kind of make yourself laugh. But then you settle in the way people that meditate, sometimes there's too much noise, and then they ease into their meditation. It's the same. I find the same thing with journaling.
Okay, let me tell you why. Two quick questions. You have, I'm assuming, a binder or a book or something where you journal,
Yes.
right? How's your handwriting?
It's not great. I can read
Okay.
it, but it's a lot
Okay.
faster. And I'm starting to use my left hand a lot more
Okay.
because
Interesting.
And that came.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So do you write differently with your left as opposed to your right? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
obviously different style of writing, but do you feel like do you think differently?
No, I think the same, and it's
Okay.
slower. It's definitely
Okay.
slower, not as quick. But I had to do that because when I wrote Drums, Guns, and Money, I wrote most of that first draft while I was doing chemo by hand, during my chemo appointments. Because the laptop and the screen, it really bothered my eyes or something. I don't know. It wasn't even that. It's just like, I don't feel like doing this, but I do want to get the story out. So I wrote by hand a lot. Then my hand would just cramp up and I'd switch to the left hand.
I think it's a different thing, though. Physically, it's different typing, writing. Of course, physically, there's still something taking place, but I think it's different when you're looking at a piece of paper as opposed to a screen.
Yeah,
with a keyboard. Very different therapy,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I think that's a great
Okay.
idea.
Last things. Number 2, review your content. Right? So, for example, take your favorite podcast, and I know this is everybody's favorite podcast, or your favorite TV show, or your favorite book, or the stuff that you go back to on YouTube all the time, and look at it honestly, and ask yourself, why do I like this? And most people say, I don't know, I just like it. If you like it, and it makes you feel good, and the result is like no one else gets harmed by it, then cool, keep on going. But if it's something where it gets you fired up and gets you kind of angry and adrenalized, like for example, if you find like-minded people and you're poking at another group of people, or you're trolling, you're like, oh yeah, they think the way I do. I don't think that content is good for you, and it's not good for any of us.
Oh.
So, because how often do you think, oh, why do I like this? And I'll just one more thing I'll throw in, because years ago, Sonia used to come home from work, and then she would put on CNN and watch the news, and it would piss her off. So if I said, why do you watch that? She would say, well, I want to know what's going on. Okay. And now when we look at it, the whole format, for example, at CNN, I think is stupid. They say, here's the one-line event, and then they have 6 people talk about the one-line event, which to me is so time-wasting. And she got sick of that format too, so I said, maybe part of what's pissing you off just isn't the news itself, it's this platform. And then I think a lot of those shows are doing that, and that's partly why a lot of these regular news channels are losing people, because the experts, the pundits, aren't really adding any useful information.
You're on to something really big, Jonathan, and I have a dream that someday social media may fall out of favor. I know it's not going to happen today, but I know that I agree with you completely, because all of these platforms, no matter what it is, it could be YouTube, it could be Facebook, it could be Instagram, I see rabbit holes of people just spiraling into going back and forth on something, on some topic that was a clickbait to begin with. So it could be, the kid that actually murdered the guy in the insurance company. That is viral right now, and that's taken a very dark turn, and it's not stopping. So honestly, I don't look at it. It's like, okay, because we all have the power to just scroll past something, or
Right.
not even use that platform. So I think Sony's onto
But-
something with you on CNN.
Yeah, and the same way that you were talking about earlier, when with resolutions, it's like Madison Avenue is trying to sell you something. Well, that's what the news is too. So
Yep.
if you will get this emotional response from seeing that young kid shoot that CEO.
Mhm.
The next news thing is also tragic. So now you're stuck in this, like, well, I need to know what's going on. I don't want to look away. And then you're keyed up and you're anxious and like, wait a minute. So they keep, well, with the algorithms, right? Oh, you like that one? Here's more. Here's another one. Here's another one. And then by the end of the year, you've looked at all this negative content and you found your tribe and they all see the same content and they agree with you. And then all of a sudden, you don't like that tribe and you trolled them. You know what I mean? It's not good.
It's kind of like a big whirlpool of stuff going around in circles, sinking down. And
Down the
it's just
toilet,
and then
exactly.
Exactly. So, you know, how do we get so smart to like get out of that?
So that number 2 is review your content.
Yep.
And we talked about that. So this is also kind of a year in review. So we had an episode where we talked about GLP-1s, Ozempic, and all that stuff.
Yes.
And so number 3 is manage your GLP-1. So if you are on Ozempic or one of those things, you have to lift weights and you have to eat properly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are some out there, because one of the things we talked about is it takes away your craving for food. So a lot of people, they'll be eating less. But if you're still eating junk food, just a little bit less of it, you're still going to be a mess in your internal organs. And with anytime you lose weight, and especially on diet pills, it's not like, oh, I lost all this fat. You lose the muscle too. So then you end up being that old phrase of being skinny fat, which means when people look at you, you're thin, but on the inside, you may as well be fat because you've had this bad food. And with no muscle tone, your bones are going to get, and I know bones, they're going to get really, really brittle, and you might fall and break a hip, not in your 80s, but in your early 60s or your late 50s, because there's no muscle, and you've been eating fast food instead of good protein, and you got to eat clean. So manage your GLP-1s.
Yes, and just a quick shout out to my friend Gary, who had started Ozempic himself based on his doctor's recommendations, but again did it the very smart way of learning new ways to live, which meant that he went to an endocrinologist and to a nutritionist. He's changing the way he eats, and also his relationship with food, so he's much more aware of those things that he craves so much. We're just kind of the same spiral we're talking about people getting into negatively, where it's basically more sugar that you're getting and your body craves it and craves it and craves. So if you cut it down or whittle it down, you're not going to go there. So I got to shout out to him again, because he did go on
Good for him.
Ozempic, but he did it the smart way. He's being very logical about it. He also realizes there's an end date to it, and then by the time that this end date comes back, he'll have changed all these habits that actually would keep weight off.
Thank you. And he's ready to go. And you know what? Every doctor should put their patients on it that way. It should be a whole package, not just the prescription.
Yep.
That's responsible. That's
Absolutely.
I like that.
So what's
I
next?
like that. Shout out to Kery. What's next is this is a tough one, because a lot of people have a fitness goal as their resolution. Like, I'm going to lose these pounds, or I'm going to do this for 12 weeks. And we touched on that. So I'm going to say, set your fitness goal for 1 year. Right? So let's say we have 20 people, and 20 people say, oh, I want to lose 15, I want to do this, I want more energy. So on January 1st, I'm going to go on this diet, and I'm going to join this gym. Say, okay, if you asked all of them, will you do this for 365 days? Let's say 7 of them say, well, I just want to see how it goes. That means right off the bat, if you cannot commit to a year, how are you going to do with your resolution? You'll be done by 3 months? 2 weeks?
Oh,
5
I
weeks?
got a statistic for you later.
Oh,
about it.
right.
But it's actually interesting that you bring this up too, because one of the things I looked into was why people do not carry through with their pivots or their resolutions, but also what you can do to be successful with changes in your life. And one of them is exactly what you said, which was planning. You actually have to make a plan, because
Map
you can't
it
just
out.
say on January 1st,
January
I'm going to
1st,
join a gym. It's like, okay, then what?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
lack of planning is one of the main reasons why people are not lasting very long on these changes they want to make.
Yeah. And I feel bad for those people, because you shell out a bunch of money to join that gym, and then you start to taper off. So now you feel guilty that you didn't stick to your resolution, and then you feel bad that you've wasted this money. And you think, well, I have it for a year and I'll go back. So it always bothers you. And it's not 100% your fault. If you have it mapped out for 12 months and say, I should be here in 3 and here in 6, and then you can have the celebration party at 6 months, 6 months to go, and boom, there's your year.
You also mentioned accountability, and one of the things that you can help with accountability is actually sharing this goal with your partner, with a friend, with a workout partner, with somebody, so you're actually getting this accountability out into the world and not just keeping it inside. Just saying, oh, I'm going to join a gym, and I'm going to keep that all inside. So if you have accountability there with the planning, there's more ways to help, and actually people could support you with that accountability too.
Right. Yeah. That's, like the buddy system or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Number 5, manage your screen time.
That's a hard one. Go on.
So I've got an iPhone. I don't really care about this shit, but some people, which are you, Android or iPhone? So you're Android guy, right?
I have to.
Okay.
It's a
So
household rule.
So you can go onto your phone, I'm sure, and see in settings and see how much time you spend on your phone. Right?
Yes, actually you can.
Yeah. So when I say manage your screen time, just see what that is. I think a lot of people will be surprised. It's probably more than what they think. So look at that and say, okay, for the next week, 7 days, I'm going to chop 25% of that time off. Just see if you can do it. If you can, cool. If you can't, or if you're not even close, then maybe start thinking, maybe I'm on here a little too much. But try that, or try 50%, and then take that extra time to do. Now you have more time you could read a physical book, go for a walk, hang out with your partner, take your dog for an extra walk. You will have time on your hands if you don't, if you're not on that screen.
Let me share with you what I just did, because we talked about this in Pivot episode 2. I actually, don't laugh, I picked up a book. And what I meant by that is, when we were out in Palm Springs visiting our friends, we stayed in the casita, and they had a full library of books out there.
Okay.
And I just looking at the spines of the books and all the titles, I said, oh, you know what? I've always wanted to read that book. I literally physically grabbed the book and I started reading it that night. And guess what? I've been doing that instead of turning on my screen at night to watch a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Very different experience. And it was something, because actually what kills me is that I said, oh gosh, I've always wanted to read that.
You're right. You never carved out the time for it.
No.
Right?
And the thing is that, it might take me a year to read this book, because, you open the book and, like, all of a sudden the book,
Well, you know what? You're savoring it. You're savoring that book. You got to tell yourself that.
Yeah, but I mean, also, I got to say, it's a little bit of a lost art reading a book again.
100%.
Turning the pages, feeling the book in your hand, the weight of
tangible.
it, the light you need to read. I mean, there's a whole different tactile experience. And I got to say, it lets you down real easy.
Yeah,
So,
it does. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you dig that one.
Reading is fundamental.
Number 6 is an obvious one. Be charitable. So if you don't have any
Hitting all my chords today.
If you don't have a regular charity, find one. And even if you start with $25. Sonia and I have a couple. So if you already have some, add one more. Find one other charity, because there's so many people without even getting into animal rescue, just people. There's so many categories of people that need help.
Yes, and I'm going to add to that too, because I don't know how this is. It's our simpatico and our kismet that's happening all the time. But here's what happened. Very quick story. The company that I work for, they work with upholstery. They sent a bunch of new cushions to change out on a couple of these sofas, very large sofas. I had these very large cushions from these brand new sofas I had to take out and put in new ones, blah, 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 blah. I had all these extra cushions sitting in the stockroom. And I kind of said, well, I don't want to just throw these away. Like, I don't want to put them in landfill. What possibly can I do with them? So guess what? I started calling animal shelters. And I met up with this very nice lady, Tonette, who is actually works for a dog rescue on her own. And she's like, oh, I would definitely like to use some of those.
Okay.
So this is something that's really close to what you're talking about, finding a charity. And I don't, it's an organization, I wouldn't call it a charity, but they're doing good work.
Right.
And animals, I've got a soft spot for dogs, even though I've got the two most horrible dogs in the world that live with me.
They are lovely.
No, they're not. But here's the thing. I think that's and you know what? The good part is that I'm developing a relationship with this nice lady.
There you go. Look at that.
And we're going to try and get her on the podcast to speak about what she does and how she does it.
Look at that.
And
all because of you put a little brain horsepower into a problem, which was extra cushions.
Yeah, and I can see the benefit for it, not just selfishly for me, because I feel better that something is good happening for a dog that she rescued or dogs that she rescues.
Yeah.
But now I've reached out. I'm finding out all these other organizations locally that are doing the same work.
Right.
Because I got a lot of cushions to get rid of. So yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Great.
Okay. You won't be shocked, and we just talked about it before this. Read.
Wow.
Yeah, that was on there. And getting to the physical, the tangible one. Go ahead and read on your tablet or whatever, but if you have that bad sleep hygiene and you're reading your tablet at night, grab the real book, And what I would also say, and I get this a lot when I was trying to, harass my friends to buy my books, and I'd always get, well, I don't really read. Well, I don't read. I used to read in college. I don't really read anymore. So I would say this, but everybody streams, right? Everybody has their shows they watch. And all of those shows are written by writers. So you do like story, but to watch something is so much easier than slowing down and reading a book. So I don't mean to be harsh, but that's just laziness. It's just lazy. Because
I agree with you.
And it's not entirely your fault. It's because of technology and how fast stimulus comes at us now that we can't slow down to read that book. You had to get out of your house and somewhere where you're on almost like vacation, and then you found a physical book, and now you're in, right? So what you were doing in that physical space is you had shut off all the technology, and you just had the real, you saw floor-to-ceiling books or whatever, and you found the book that you, that's the way to do it, is to just, and it's hard because our mind now, we always run at 85 miles an hour when we used to run at around 50 and read a book.
Well, okay, I totally agree with you because I was very tempted because the book I had was obviously available on Kindle, or I can buy it and watch it on my pad or read it on my pad. Very different experience.
Yeah.
And what I say that is because, for one thing, the light. I need to see what I'm reading, so I have to either be upright with a light overhead so I can actually see it, or during the daytime, but it's mostly at night that I'm reading too. So, again, I was very tempted, but I did not do it because I easily could have downloaded that book onto my Kindle, but I kept the book because I like the book. I like to read it. I like to turn the page. I find that it also helps me focus.
Yes.
Maybe it's well, I guess I don't know. It is focus because you're.
It
reading,
is because
but you have to stay conscious of the what you're reading.
Right. So the lack of stimulus, the electronic stuff, is gone, and you can focus because that's not there, and then the story brings you in and holds your focus.
Yes.
So if you're not digging that book, you put it down and get another one. But if you dig the story and you can just turn the phone even upside down and leave the tablet in the other room, turn off the TV, you can get into reading.
Okay, philosophical question. Is it cheating if I turn my phone on for the light to shine onto the book at night?
Oh, you should get a book light.
Okay.
Don't use that. Don't use the phone. Don't use that blue light.
Oh, it's a blue. Oh, shoot. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got an answer for everything.
I do. Okay. Speaking of, number 8 is listen.
What? What? I can't. What?
I find that, and I've even seen this. I'm not talking about our group of friends, but when you go out and at restaurants, you'll see if people are not on their phones and whatever, and they're chatting, there's a lot of interrupting and talking over each other, and not really. Oh, I didn't know that's what you meant, or did you, why didn't you tell me that? Well, I did tell you. People, again, the mind's going so quickly that we're not really listening to each other. And what I think happens is we half listen. So you're half listening to what the person's saying so you can follow along. The other half of that time, you're formulating what you want to say next. And that is the problem. So we got to go back to, like when we were kids, they say, look them in the eye, listen, let them finish, breathe, and then respond. And it'll be a far better conversation.
I completely agree with you, and I learned something because I know that when we have when we have our conversations at the different breweries, I'm so excited about what we're talking about. I tend to talk over you. So
and then I jump back over you, but that's excitement.
And then we just keep going back. And I understand because one of the things I learned from one of my very good Swedish companies I worked for was they actually took me away to Sweden, and they were talking and taught active listening. I don't want to be a guru or like saying some kind of magic elixir.
Yes, you do.
But active listening is basically everything you just mentioned. Listening, and the biggest challenge is to take the breath before you respond.
Right.
And the other thing that's hard is to not try and think about what you're going to respond while that person's still thinking.
Right.
I'm sorry.
So I didn't make this up. It's been around before.
No, and it's and you know what? At the end of the day, aside from being a tool for yourself, it's actually showing respect for people that you're spending time with.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Okay, we're burning through these things. Okay, anxiety simplified. Right, so we now know a lot of people have anxiety.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of levels of it, right?
Yeah.
So simply put, I'm just putting this, not being a professional in this area, but by definition, it is fear of a perceived future, right? So, like years ago, I was training this kid, and we were chucking the ball around, and the ball went into the neighbors, and I said, "Oh, that neighbor's cool. Just knock on the door, and you get the ball back." And he's like, "No, I don't want to do that." I said, "No, don't be shy. It's going to be okay." And I know that this kid was anxious about a lot of things. So I said, "Okay, let's strategize." And I took a knee like a football coach. And I said, let's think of the possible things that could happen when you go knock on that door. And I said, do you think the cat's going to come out like with a gun? And he's like, well, no. I said, do you think they're just going to fling the door open and like set like a big dog on you? And he goes, do they have a dog? And I said, no. He's like, okay. Or he said, okay. And I said, so I think the worst thing that can happen is he just says, I don't want you going back there. No. And then you just come right back over here. And he thought about it. He got out to the sidewalk. And then he came back. Why do I have to do it? My mom would just get me another one. And like he kind of went, he didn't want to go up against that fear, which was anxiety. He was anxious about a possible future. So then we took a knee again and went through the stuff again. And then he went over and knocked on the door, got the ball back. The biggest smile I'd ever seen on this kid. The biggest smile that he conquered his fear. Now, what I think this is just dealing with young people. A lot of the parents, they don't want their kid to be afraid. They want to keep them safe. And if they're afraid to go knock on that door, the parents, don't bother him. He doesn't want to do that. And then it leads to this fear and that fear. And then they say, well, he's got anxiety, right? Yeah. So just at a very simple level, break that thing down, that perceived future, and see if it's actually rational or logical, if it makes sense. I mean, a lot of times it does. But sorry, go ahead.
Yes. No, I agree with you, and I think and I'm not going to go down the parenting rabbit hole because it's too easy. But I think might be a different thing because we know we hear a lot about anxiety now, a lot more than we ever did in the past.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know. I don't want to sound like a boomer about it. So I agree with you. I think to take a second. What's the worst thing that's going to happen to me? And maybe if you have 3 scenarios, and you know what, none of them's all that bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I completely agree with you. I think it's a great practice to try and put into place.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take a little bit of practice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
In
life
any situation, who knows?
Life is practice, and you just keep doing the thing till you get better.
Yeah.
All right, number 10. Oh, this kind of touches on your earlier thing is like, what are you really pissed about? So if you find yourself... So, and I even have it here, and this one's for you, Donnie, baby, because I wanted to ask you if you figured out those little things, and it's usually the bigger thing that's pissing you off, and it just comes out and snapping at the dogs or snapping at the partner, or just really getting pissed off if someone cuts you off. But if you think about, if someone cuts you off, yeah, that person's a dick, but they probably wasted 1/10 of a second of your time. Does that really matter? Not really. So go back and figure out what that thing is and confront it. Why am I really snapping? So that's what I was asking, if you figured out what that was. Because that's what I did.
I don't know if I truly have.
You haven't?
I don't know if I truly have figured it out yet, but I know that it's less now because I'm aware of it and I acknowledged it. To be honest with myself about it, saying, you know what, why? And then again, I have to give partner a little credit.
Yeah, that's great what he said.
Are you getting at? What are you possibly getting out of it? If you yell at the dog, what does it do for you? And that's kind of one of those things we've been talking about a little bit right now. Is like that exchange. Like, what scenario is it? Like, what are you getting out of it? Why do you do it? And I guess I got to be honest with you. I haven't figured out why, but I'm aware of it. So maybe I'll get there.
Right.
Hopefully soon.
Sure.
And I've been yelling at dogs in a long time.
Number 11. Kindness. Oh, simple. Except it's not enough to go on the gram and those places and do kindness emojis and hold your hands up in the frickin' heart. You actually have to do something, like make an effort and start. You can start small. Like just this is a pet peeve and it'll probably be a mare of everywhere, but I often let the other car go. If they let me go, I wave, thank you. But down here, in some of the more privileged neighborhoods, not that I live in a privileged neighborhood, but they give you that quick little glance like, yes, I see you, and now my eyes are going back to the road. There's no way I'm going to give you a thank you because that's not what I do. Or they go out of their way to just, we both know you let them go, and they just go in with nothing. Just that little wave doesn't cost you anything. So, you hold the door, say thank you if someone holds the door for you. Just start with that little shit. Do that daily, and then you will become kinder, and then you'll do bigger acts of kindness.
And maybe someone will observe it someday. And you never know that person saw you do what you did.
Yeah.
And you'll have an effect and hopefully ripples out.
Right.
Like a rock.
Yeah, because you're not a kindness hero by putting a kindness poem up in the goddamn ground.
Okay, so I'm very excited that you brought this up because one of the things I wrote it down. I actually typed this out on my notes too because one of the things I might have mentioned before is I intentionally am saying hello to people on the street when I walk past.
What a difference! What a thing!
You just walking the dogs that I don't yell at anymore. But it's like honestly, and I think people, believe it or not, people do appreciate that.
They do. They do.
Because, a lot of times we're this all the time.
Yeah.
But when you're not, and I go out of my way to do it now. So and I'm not overtly going like, hi, hello, or like I'm not trying to get their attention. I just, once I get eye contact, I just say hi.
Yeah. And a good percentage come back.
It's good for me.
Yeah.
It's good for me.
Yeah.
And even being honest and selfish, it's good for me.
And you'll get a good 65-70% come back. You might get nothing, but it didn't cost you anything to say hi.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
You didn't. Absolutely.
Okay. Why did I say this? Okay. This one, number 12, is dump the label, baby. We're judging so many things by the label. They're judging the book by the cover. You know? I remember, well, like with politics down here, I noticed right away people want to know, well, are you Democrat or Republican?
Yep.
And what I loved was when I moved here, I thought, oh, there's an independent category. So I always said independent, and I was always met by this, shit, I can't crack this code. He's not one or the other. Like, and then because they want to know how to talk to me and change their dialogue if I'm on their team or not on their team. So I'd say independent, and what I'd always think, well, all you have to do is talk to me for about 5 to 6 minutes about politics, and you'll know. But at least we'll have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, we're big on brands and stuff, but it's that label. Just talk to someone. You don't have to judge them right off the bat by what label they go under, right?
It might take a little work when it comes to politics because we're so polarized right now. But maybe if we can get on, not us right now, but on a different topic, maybe there's a better way to practice that listening that we talked about, to actually take in what someone else is thinking about, what other people's viewpoints are.
Yeah, and I think that's also the problem with what happened with the internet, is we look at the Reddit threads and then we follow the people that are just like us, and then we're under their label. It's tribal, it's label, it's just dump that and just have a conversation and look at both sides. Think for yourself.
Yep.
And the last one, number 13, character is what counts. So that's what I've been working on for a long time with myself, is to have a strong character and have it be the best I can be, not to sound like that military term. When I wrote that book on Vince Lombardi, the football coach for the Green Bay Packers, I came up with the title, Character is What Counts, halfway through the research. Because once, all the football aside, off the field, he did a lot of stuff. 60s and 70s, there was no salary really for football players. They all had to have a day job. And there was half the money for the black players. So sometimes he would lend them money, and he wouldn't let them pay him back. If they couldn't get housing because they were black, because he was so popular as a coach in Green Bay, he would say, you know, you're going to let my linebacker live there, or nobody's going to rent here, type of thing. Same thing, some restaurants said no blacks coming in, and Lombardi said, none of my organization, black, white, or whatever, is ever going to step foot in here until you let the black players in. So and there's other examples, but I thought, what strong character. He could have just gone with the flow of the 1970s. You know, to everyone's eyes, he was a white guy, a white Italian guy. So part of strong character is you're doing the hard thing in a difficult time. He didn't have to do any of that stuff, and still he did. And one more example, he was a member at a country club, which they let him join for free because of who he was. And he got to know these Native American and indigenous caddies that would caddy for him. And they had really good conversations. And he found out that they were laid off in summer because the white college kids would come and they needed jobs. So he said, I'm pulling my membership unless these two guys work year-round, because they were kind of grumbling about having to find just a quick summer job before they could come back. And so that's just such strong character. And I remember before I'd say the last really impactful conversation I had with my mother. So when she passed, it was sudden. It wasn't like I had years of her in a hospital or a home or whatever. She had a heart attack. And it was right before my wedding, and we were talking about, I was talking about being a good man and a good husband to my upcoming marriage. And she said, character is everything. Character is what really matters. Never mind legacy, never mind money, never mind. It's all about your character, and you have 100% control. We spoke for like an hour and a half, and I was like, "Preach, Mom, preach," because I had all those feelings, and she was articulating the importance of it. So I'd like everyone from 2024 going into 25 to really work at all aspects of your character. And we've touched on kindness, we've touched on charity, we've touched on not snapping at little dogs. Although that's funny in short bursts. But and then I had that rant a couple weeks ago or whenever it was that we can all be better. Like, we all know how to do it. Like, we have just, the do unto others as you have them do to you, for that biblical. We all know that stuff. But but we're in this thing like, hey, everyone over here is getting away with this thing, so I can too. Mm-hmm. That's shitty character. Mm-hmm. That's the lazy way out. That's the cheap way out. And you don't feel good. Temporarily, but nah.
It's kind of the way that, I was asked the question, like, what are you getting out of that? What does that really do for you? And if we could take the time to reflect on why we are a certain way, or why we are vitriolic, or why we are combative, like, I'm sure if we started asking ourselves that question,
right,
we'd probably temper that in a lot.
Right. Yeah. So, 13 is character.
Okay.
And so I think we'll go with the unofficial 13 Hacks to Freedom from Fuckery.
Okay. So, to wrap this up, I have a couple of little nuggets I promised you. So, we talked about this, and we're going to just go down the marketing side, because I did take this from the interwebs.
Okay.
And basically, there is something called a Quitter's Day. Did you know this?
No.
When it comes to pivots or resolutions. And that is the second Friday in January. Apparently, the marketing world has decided that only 2 weeks into the year, most people fall short of their New Year's goals by the second Friday in January. So that's a statistic that we have. Also, I had this here when we were talking about what the most common pivots or resolutions are: eating healthier, working out more, drink less, manage stress, quit smoking, which I'm surprised at, because who the hell smokes anymore?
Right.
Cook more, create a better life-work balance, and prioritize mental health. So we've actually spoken about most of these things too. Right. And the bigger one, the last one, was save more money. It's interesting that these are very common things. But we also talked about how you could actually achieve a lot of these things, which setting realistic goals, planning, and accountability, which I thought was pretty amazing. And I wanted to leave it with this too, because I do have one more thing.
All right.
Because looking at all the marketing that's out there about pivots and resolutions, there's something that came up that says, what year is exactly like 2024, the year we're leaving? The year was 1996, and it's completely similar because it was a leap year. There was a presidential election.
Yep.
The Olympic years both happened in 1996, and the Paris Games in 2024, right?
Shit. Okay.
And then the start of the year is on a Monday, and that was from 2024. So maybe next episode I'll bring back what's going to happen in 2025, according to all these people.
96. Yeah. No, that's pretty fresh in my memory, because I moved here in 94, and I remember the Clinton election and all that jazz. Mm-hmm. Huh. Okay.
That's a little nugget to chew on. It's not deep fried, so we're good.
Right. So are we going to do anything different with the show in 2025?
Yes.
I'm asking as if I'm a listener. Well, what are we going to do, Don?
I have some goals, but what do you want to share first?
Oh, yeah. You gonna share those goals? What do we do?
I'm gonna share my hopes and dreams.
Okay.
For it, so go ahead.
Okay.
You go first.
No, I asked you. Aren't you listening?
Shoot. Okay. What? Is this thing on? I can't. Well, I think one of the things for the podcast, we had talked about this a number of times. I want to learn how to record on location with better mic setup and multi-camera.
Oh.
So I'm going to work on that. That's something I'm working on. And one of the things I've actually asked for a Christmas gift is actually to find a mentor to give feedback on how we run our podcast. I don't mean run it, but actually just give us feedback on our format, our
Critique the
content,
show.
our flow, all this kind of stuff. So actually, rather than get a new cashmere sweater, I think I'd like to have somebody consult who's outside of us and our respective husbands and wives who give us feedback. I'd like somebody in the industry to give us some feedback. So
If you get the cashmere sweater, can I pick out the crop top for you?
No. So
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to.
But correct me if I'm wrong. So, like when you go to YouTube and you see maybe your logo on the gram as well. It's Pfeiffer Productions, right? And you've got another podcast with Gary. What is it called? Doing 60? What's it called?
Don and Gary doing 60.
Don and Gary. Okay.
Gary came up with that. Not
Okay,
Gary
no,
came up with that, so I got to give him that.
I like that. But so you would like to have a few podcasts under your umbrella, correct?
That's kind of the ultimate retirement goal, taking me out of the workplace into this more as no, I don't want to say a hobby, but more of something that keeps my mind active, invigorated, keeps me learning new things from technology, believe it or not, learning how to do new stuff.
So in 2025, do you plan on adding another podcast to your plate?
I don't think so, not yet, because I want to get these up. I want to get these guys running smoothly and improve the overall, I don't want to say quality, but the production quality on it. I want to get us to a really good place. And I think adding another one might be too much.
I think you are good at this, and you're going to be good at that, like with that dream of the podcast under your umbrella, and I guess you'll produce some of them and beyond some of them. I think that is a good choice for you, because the passion is there, and I think when we do our live interviews, you're very good at it. And then
I want to get better at it, and I want us to be even more stuff.
Oh, it's never. We're always learning. It's never over. But as your co-host, I support you in that dream, because I think it's a fine-fitting suit for you, a cashmere crop top.
I want to make that Smartless money.
Oh, God.
That Rogan money.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Okay, we'll make the Rogan money. All you had to do was tell me. I didn't know.
Or the Dax money.
There you go.
What about you?
I'm going to finish off this battle, which is tried to come back. I've got about 5 books that are either outlined, partially written, a couple of sentences. So I got a lot of that to do, and I really want to up my game on the audiobook narration. Then I want to grow. I'm going to grow, start and grow this whole coaching business. Because I just feel so good when I help people. I just fracking love that.
Yeah.
Can I go like this?
No, but I can see you doing that, Jonathan. I think you're such an empathetic person. You have so much of a heart, no pun intended. But I mean, you do, and I think this is a good next thing. Could be a really good next thing.
Yeah.
And we're always reinventing our lives, right? We're always reinventing. There's never time to be static. Always doing something different or trying something new and improving and getting better at what we do. So I think that sounds amazing. Actually.
Yeah. Yep. I've got lots of teaching experience, training experience, and out there life experience. So I really like breaking things down and helping people go, oh, I love that. So that's kind of what 25 looks like.
Okay. Well, I'm
and
looking forward
beyond.
to 25.
Yeah.
So you ready to shut this one down?
Yeah, man, this was a long one, but it's kind of the year ender, right? This is
Yeah, and I think it is a good one. I think we'll have to put together a couple little snippets of a
Oh,
reel
yeah.
to
You
end
mean,
the year out to. Something like sound
those
checks. Or
those-
Jonathan's ideas
Oh.
that didn't make it on the cutting floor.
And me
You know
shaking
what I
the
mean?
keys.
Yes, well, that too. Yeah, and all
Yes,
the paper shuffling was amazing.
I
is what I'm gonna
loved
tell
the
you.
one you did before in the old podcast.
Yeah,
It was odd that I watched the blooper reel probably 4 times.
no, we need those clicks. We need all those.
Oh yeah,
So,
that's why I did it.
okay, so I'm gonna close us down if that's okay.
Yeah. So everybody out there, have a great holiday and a safe. Don is holding up his light fucking extravaganza.
My lightsaber.
Lights. You hold it up again and say, "Do you like me?"
Do you like me? Are you my daddy? Are you my father?
Oh God, that sound is a whole bunch of
my
listeners
God.
leaving.
I don't know where we're going. Like click, click, click,
Yeah,
click.
exactly. Unsubscribe.
Slamming laptops like bonk.
Exactly. So everybody be super safe out there and be kind to each other. And we'll get through all this jazz together. What did we do this year? We blew up their jazz, Donnie.
Yes, we did. We got to bring that hashtag back. So we hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Please join us next time and share more exciting stories about people, groups, and businesses making a difference in the community, and of course, our thoughts and opinions on everything.
Yes, what he said.
You can still find us on Apple Podcasts. You can still find us on Spotify. You can go to Instagram at Live With Know Podcast 123, and of course our YouTube channel, which we love, and it's at the Pfeiffer Pod.
What's it called? Pfeiffer Pod.
The Pfeiffer Pod at Life as We Know It. Jonathan and Don. As we spiral out of 24 into 25. We will see you next time, and we'll definitely have updates as everything progresses in our lives. So we will be back.
Yep. And happy New Year, everybody.